I was looking at our list of places to go, and I noticed that there are a lot of places that run along the lines of being things like farms and forests and gardens and parks. It kind of made me realize that many people have to go out of their way just to visit places like forests and parks to see wildlife. Johnson City isn't that bad as far as the city taking over the wildlife goes, but it will, as cities do, expand to take up more and more land and natural resources, destroying more natural habitats and pushing more and more animals back into what few wooded areas remain. So instead of hunting down a forest or going to a designated park, I decided to film what most people encounter every day. I'm in Jonesboro, Tennessee right now, Union Church Road to be exact. This place isn't too bad as far as the destruction of nature for the expansion of man goes, but I'd like to show you something. Off in the distance there you'll see some buildings. These are newly built residential apartments/condos. Last year, they weren't even there. In fact, they're still building. You can see a bulldozer right there digging up lots and lots of dirt and piling it into this huge pile. The area was pretty much like the field you see stretching between me and the condos, except with a few more trees. There are the condos in the distance. There's the field. Now that field may not look very impressive, or like it would be home to a lot of wildlife, but I assure you that what few animals, such as rabbits and other assorted rodents and insects that live there, are already starting to feel very crowded and uncomfortable with all of the building that's going on. First the houses come, then the apartment complexes, and before you know it, that field will be a series of driveways, yards, and human living space. Because, let's face it, cities don't get smaller. They expand and expand until all you have left are forests made from concrete and asphalt. Sadly, rabbits can't eat asphalt. I'd also like to show you these. All these little things you see here are dead worms. I'm not really sure why they've crawled up onto this asphalt drive, but they're here and they've been baked by the sun and squashed by cars. In fact, I ran over a few when I came up here. I feel really bad about that, but only because some worm juice got on my shoes when I got out of the car. Man, are these insects such an inconvenience to me and my way of life, all messing up this man-made parking space with their dirty little bodies. If you think about it though, I kind of wonder what these worms think about me and my species, all covering up their nice, soft, fertile dirt with our hard, hot, and stinking rock that they can't burrow into. Aside from the insects, I'd like to show you the closest sign of wildlife that's near this house. Here, on the front door, a bird has built its nest in this wreath. Sometimes animals and insects try to coexist with humans, such as those worms in the asphalt and this bird building its nest on the door wreath. Humans are really good about taking over, but definitely not so good at sharing. Sometimes animals and insects run out of places to go and decide it would be easier to share with us instead of fight other species for living space. Oftentimes, however, we humans find it mildly inconvenient and somewhat annoying that these dirty animals and pests are invading our homes. I dare say this nest will be taken down by the owner of this house soon, and the bird will be homeless and in search of some other place to have its little babies and further its species. With a limited amount of trees and seemingly vast amount of birds, however, there don't seem to be many places for our flighty little friend to make its home. Let's face it, unless you live in a forest, the most animals you will probably encounter are going to be things like squirrels, birds, domestic animals, and the occasional roadkill. This is what nature is becoming, a sequence of suburbs, cities, and protected or designated nature spots or forests. I look around me and see a lot of detrimental human impact, but not a lot of positive human impact. Humans consume far more than they need to survive and rarely give anything back. We don't really interact with the environment. We just do what we want and tell nature to deal with it. We're inefficient with our energy and overindulgent with our lifestyle. What do I think we can do to make things better? I think we should stop overpopulating the earth for starters. That's very unlikely, however. Did you know that as of 2006, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States, 850 million people worldwide were undernourished in 1999 to 2005, which are the most recent years for which figures are available, and that the number of malnourished people has recently been increasing? If we were to use the amount of land that we used to graze cows on to grow vegetables instead, then we could feed almost twice as many people. If the entire world adopted the vegetarian or vegan lifestyle and stopped raising farm animals as food, the entire world would be fed and there would be a surplus. If the entire world adopted the lifestyle that the majority of America has, half the world would starve. Animals fed on grain, and those that rely on grazing need far more water than grain crops. According to the USDA, growing the crops necessary to feed farm animals requires nearly half of the United States water supply and 80% of its agricultural land. Additionally, animals raised for food in the U.S. consume 90% of the soy crop, 80% of the corn crop, and a total of 70% of its grain. In tracking food animal production from the feed trough to the dinner table, the inefficiencies of meat, milk, and egg production range from 4-to-1 energy input to protein output ratio up to 54-to-1. The result is that producing animal-based food is typically much less efficient than the harvesting of grains, vegetables, legumes, seeds, and fruits. My point is that the reduction of this natural habitat, of all natural habitats like this field you see being slowly overtaken by human houses, is just the surface of a serious problem. It may look relatively harmless, but things that seem harmless can quickly escalate out of our control and become dangerous to not only the animals we exploit and disregard, but to ourselves as well. It may seem more convenient to build and take, but the amount of land on Earth isn't infinite. Our population is expanding, but the Earth isn't. We have to preserve this world not only for the animals we're killing off, but for future generations of our own species as well. I don't want my descendants to have to suffer malnutrition or polluted air or constant sweltering heat or deadly sun rays. We need to be more conscious of our actions and more efficient in our methods and look beyond our desire for instant gratification.